If John Kincade were to write a book about his career in sports radio, which player or coach would get their own chapter?
Michael Vick.
Ooh, that's got to be.
Because it's got to be because I saw Mike's career from the day he was drafted to the nonsense that went on in Atlanta, and then he ends up, after his stint in federal prison, he ends up back in my hometown of Philadelphia. So I've had to either root for or watch or cover Mike's entire career. And I can tell you my story of Michael Vick would be far different than the one that is portrayed by media members who don't know him at all.
How
personally.
so? How so?
I know Michael to be very kind. I know him to be very impressionable. I think he's a guy who easily is swayed. He hung out with the wrong people. He financed the wrong people's lifestyles. But one thing I know about Mike is that I do a lot of charity work as a cancer survivor myself. I do a lot of charity work for cancer charities, and every year I'm asked to do things for kids, charities in the Atlanta area. Michael Vick was the most generous professional sports athlete ever, and continues to be, that I've ever known. Whenever he was asked to do anything, whenever he was asked to show up somewhere, he would not only bring stuff that the Falcons sent along, but he would bring his people would bring along their own gear and stuff for the kids. And Michael's one stipulation was no media coverage of it. And I know many other people that asked me, athletes over the years that have asked me, well, are any of the TV stations going to be there? Is there going to be a photographer there? And Michael Vick, his one stipulation was never did he want media coverage of him doing something kind in the community. So even though I thought Mike needed to be punished, I know a different man, and his teammates loved him in Atlanta too.
Do you think how would his career be different right now, or if it would at all, if not for him going to prison?
Well, his career would have been different with one thing happening. If Dan Reeves had never been fired by Arthur Blank idiotically, Arthur Blank just couldn't wait to get Dan Reeves out of there. He wanted so badly to get Dan Reeves out when he bought the franchise, because Dan Reeves is not the kind of coach. He was a coach with an NFL pedigree and a legacy. He wasn't going to let Arthur Blank push him around, the new owner. So Arthur couldn't wait to get rid of Dan Reeves. He just needed an excuse, and Mike Vick breaking his leg in the preseason and the team being awful was his excuse. If Dan Reeves had stayed as the coach, Michael, first of all, would have been kept in line with his social life, and he also would have evolved much better as a player, because he arguably had two of his best seasons under Dan Reeves. And I can tell you this, is that Dan still kept in touch with him even when he was in federal prison, still thinks of him like an adopted son. And Jim Mora let him run wild. Jim Mora came in here and wanted to be all the players' best friends. He wanted to be a buddy with everybody. He was more interested in being one of them than being a head coach. And it ended up being his downfall. And Michael Vick would have definitely benefited from never having had a coach the style of Jim Mora, who wanted to be one of the boys instead of wanting to be a leader.
John Kincade with us, 680 The Fan in Atlanta and CBS Sports Radio. He joins us on the Little Caesars Hot and Ready hotline. All right, over to the Hawks. How would you explain the biggest differences in these new Hawks compared to the quote-unquote old Hawks?
Well, Zach, if you can figure it out, tell me. Because
so it's like
I have never been so shocked. In fact, I think right now, we talked about it the other day on my show in Atlanta. I believe I'm more shocked by what has gone on with this Hawks team than anything that I've ever witnessed.
Really?
In all my years doing it. Absolutely. Before the season, I every year go and spend my anniversary in Las Vegas at the Bellagio, and it's 7-7. It's in July. And when I was there in July, the Hawks over-under number was 48.5. And I wouldn't bet it, even though I thought the Hawks were going to win 51. I wouldn't bet it, because I said, wow, when you're talking about like 2.5 games or so, one little injury that unforeseen for 2 or 3 weeks can skew that number. So I wouldn't do it. And we always do a big thing on the show where I have a certain amount of money set aside, and then how am I going to bet it on the Atlanta teams, over-unders and things like that. I didn't believe this Hawks team was anything more than I thought they'd be a 50-win club. 51 is what I called on the air. I never saw this coming. I would be lying to you through my teeth if I said I saw this team's potential, if I saw this team's ability to fight and have just incredible balance. And, Zach, you got to understand, they don't play close games. This team doesn't play close games. They blow out opponents night after night. The games are atrociously boring, honestly, the way this team wins. It's unforeseen. Never would have seen it coming. And that includes our general manager, who is still on a self-imposed sabbatical.
Oh, and that makes it so much more great. I mean, the irony in that this fantastic team has a GM in hiding and has a for sale sign out the front door. I mean, what the hell?
Well, it's been a three-ring circus forever. And last week I get into it with Israel Gutierrez on Twitter as he's ripping Atlanta fans. I'm like, first of all, you're from Miami, so please shut your mouth. You're talking about professional sports fans. Oh, look how the fans support the Heat. I'm like, yeah, it's really hard to support LeBron. Go get your tips frosted and shut up. I'm like, it's like, stop. Ripping on Atlanta fans is so cliche. It's just like so cliched. The Atlanta Hawks have been a dumpster fire, have been an absolute disgrace for the longest time. That team has been here since the 60s, has never won a second-round series, ever. This team has been atrocious with the horrible ownership, with the scandals, with the ridiculous nature of these people. I mean, they were paying people with gift cards, I think, from the local Kroger. They were like, going, this team was sending out IOUs as Christmas bonuses. I mean, these owners were horrible. Now we're getting new ownership. Danny Ferry makes some comments that were inappropriate of nature on a phone call that he never thought was being taped, and then was leaked by one of the owners to try to destroy him. And Danny Ferry, I wish Al Sharpton. We've tried to get Al on the phone. I'm hoping Al Sharpton can, at least whatever he needs to have done to get Danny Ferry back in his job. The Atlanta community leaders, I always use the air quotes with that. They've already had the forgiveness tour. This guy has done the best GM job in the NBA, and he deserves to be back. It's a self-imposed sabbatical, and he better be back soon.
John Kincade with us, 680 The Fan in Atlanta and CBS Sports Radio Network host. He joins us on Little Caesars Hot and Ready Hotline. Well, who would you push forward as because this is tough with this team, with this roster that you have, who would you kind of push forward as, like, okay, this is our MVP?
Well, there's no question that there are a couple. Al Horford is the guy. He is the guy that every single player around that organization focuses on, looks to, the leader. The guy is a champion from college, and he brings that work ethic, attitude. He's just smooth as silk. Obviously, Kyle Korver may be the best specialty weapon in the NBA. The guy's ridiculous.
He's having an historic season.
Oh, but Kyle Korver, as you well know, is an NBA fan. He's always been great, shooting from the outside.
Right.
But he's having an amazing year. The guy is an assassin. But the big story has been Jeff Teague. Jeff Teague's just the way he has, to me, come out of nowhere. First of all, lead the team in scoring, which is unbelievable to me. Which isn't maybe ideal for your point guard, but wow, he's been tremendous this year. But if you look at it, just look at the way this team plays. They're balanced, and they're balanced night after night after night. And that is why this story is so incredible. Do I think they're going to win in the playoffs, like as far as, go to an NBA Finals and win a championship? I don't know. But considering I didn't see them coming, I don't know how much my opinion holds weight. But I would tend to believe that maybe when we get to a slower pace of basketball, one where celebrity sometimes takes over and isolation takes over, I wonder about their chances to be able to get past a LeBron James or a star team at that point.
John Kincade with us. Real quick, one football question. Dan
Sure.
Quinn, defensive coordinator for the Seahawks. This is a foregone conclusion, right? He's the next head coach?
Yeah. He's coming to town.
And what does he bring? I mean, is it exciting in Atlanta?
Well, exciting would have been Rex Ryan. I mean, I'm the buffoon who walked around with no socks or shoes on until Rex was hired by Buffalo as my little personal plea to get Rex Ryan in this town. Look, Atlanta is very vanilla. And when I say that is, it's a town that doesn't like flash and people who are brash. Somehow I've stuck around for 20 years. I don't know how. I guess they just accept me as like a crazy cousin who came.
You're that guy. That's right. You're that guy.
Right.
Every town's got that
accepted.
guy. That's right.
Exactly. But the thing is that this was a town that needed a jolt of electricity. But I like the fact that they trusted their process. They thought Dan Quinn was the best guy for the job. And they're very, very confident that he's not Mike Smith 2.0, that even though he's a defensive coordinator guy, that he's a guy who brings fire, innovation, and some interesting new approaches to the game. I can't wait to see it. I'm wondering if Kyle Shanahan and I will end up getting along. The Falcons brass, the fact that they haven't taken out a hit on me over the years I think is always a positive because I tend to be their biggest critic. They're building a new stadium and they're tearing down a perfectly good stadium. I mean, in Atlanta, if a building's 25 years old, we got to tear it down and build something new. So they're building a new stadium for no reason. They want to have a Super Bowl here again. I have no understanding why, because you don't make money on Super Bowls. It just is. I'm hoping for the best. I like the hire. I don't love the hire, but I like it. I hope he's doing well.
Good news, bad news. Good news.
Yes.
I am expecting my first child, and the due date is actually 7/7, your anniversary, which is what you said.
That is fantastic.
The bad news is I probably won't be seeing you in Vegas on July 7th.
Oh.
So
now, do you know the sex of the child?
No. Should I find out?
Will you find out?
I'm leaning no.
I think you're crazy, unless that's what your bride wants. And if your bride says it, whatever, it is her choice, Zach.
Right. Well, yeah.
Choice.
I mean,
you
yeah.
should have no voice in it.
I've already done my job. I mean, my job is done.
Well, you've done it well. I mean,
that's right.
I bet it was like it was magical. But look, you're waiting for that child to come. If you're having a girl, you write this down right here because I got married late, and then I had been a cancer patient twice, and they told me I was going to have a hard time having a child because of everything I'd been through. I would be lucky if I had a kid. My wife and I were blessed to have my daughter, and she's a miracle, and she is totally ridiculously awesome. But if you end up finding out you're having a girl, if you do, first thing you do is you read a book is What a Difference a Daddy Makes, because in your job, it would be so easy to have a son. It would be so easy to share all the things that we do on a daily basis with our sons and bring them up. And God knows the way broadcasting works. Your kid would take your job when you retire someday. That's how the nepotism works. But a daughter's going to be a challenge for you. It's a challenge. You got to learn to play Disney princesses. You got to learn to sing all the Taylor Swift songs with her and things like that. Now that my daughter's 11 going on 12, it's the greatest blessing. I wish for you a girl. It's all I will tell you. I can't imagine that I ever wanted to have a boy at any time, because if I only got to have one, I am so blessed to have a girl.
Wow.
And she changes my life every single day. And I'll tell you this much: a son is a son till he takes a wife. A daughter's a daughter for the rest of your life.
Oh, look at you.
Treat her well. Treat her well, and she's always going to be there for you. And I can tell you, my daughter already knows the day of her wedding, and she's been raised with an annual trip to Vegas, so I'm a good dad here. She knows that on the day of her wedding, in the back of that church, in the lapel pocket of my tuxedo, will be 2 airline tickets to Las Vegas. And if she says to me, "Daddy, we're out of here," Mom knows to meet us at the Bellagio, because we will be out the door, and I will take her with me. So I can't wait for that.
That's awesome.
I wish you the best, brother.
Right.
And it's fun following you on Twitter. Love getting into it and having a good time.
Oh, it's so much
take care of
fun.
yourself.
So much fun. Let's keep doing it.
All
Thanks
right,
for coming on,
Let's
man.
do this again.
Okay,
Take care,
man.
man.
See ya.
Anytime.